Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're talking about frauds and scams. How do you identify a fraudulent email, phone call, or even person? What are common frauds that we see in Canada? And what do you do if you've been defrauded? We've all got those phone calls, a robotic voice saying it's the CRA calling and that they're coming to arrest you. And at this point, all of us know the right thing to do is just hang up. But frauds and scams are getting increasingly complex and hard to spot. Some people are drawn into catfish frauds or romance scams by people they develop a relationship with and come to trust. Today, we're going to be speaking to a woman who this happened to and her sister, who helped her get out of the situation before she lost everything. We'll then be joined by our panel of financial and law enforcement experts to talk about other common scams. But first, let's talk to Linda Young and her sister, Shelley Frost. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Linda, I'd like to start with you. You and your sister have written this book about your experience, Her King, the Con, how an online love affair led to near disaster. Can you tell me how you met this man who defrauded you and when you first started suspecting you were being scammed?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us on the program today. Anytime we can get this message out, I'm thrilled. But I met this individual on a dating website, and the dating website was called Our Time. We started to communicate like typical fashion through emails first, and then we exchanged phone numbers and started texting, and then started to speak on the phone together. And it was a couple, I would say a month or 6 weeks into the relationship the getting to know you phase, when he asked me to send him some iPhones. At that point, I immediately blocked him on my phone. I didn't respond to him, and I just blocked him. Was so upset and panicked to think that he could possibly be somebody trying to take advantage of me.
But then you dove back into the relationship.
I did. So I was just beside myself because we had been talking long enough that I was very excited about this person being in my life and very hopeful. And it was like just having that kind of attention. And, he was really good at what he did. So feeling that sense of happiness, that elation every day that I would get to speak with him and that he was in my life became addictive to me in terms of my own psyche and my own emotional levels, which at the time were kind of low. I had just come out of a divorce. So all of a sudden I had this hope, I had the whole future to look forward to, and this wonderful person promising me everything. About 2 weeks after I had blocked him, I was going through my emails kind of in the middle of the night, and I found an email that he had sent to me after I blocked him. Why did you do that? How could you do that? We have such a special thing together, blah, blah, blah. And so I just pushed aside all my fears and worries, and I reconnected with him. And once I did that, I told myself, if you're going to reconnect with this individual, then you're on for the whole ride, whatever that's going to be. And so I did. That's exactly what I did.
Wow. So Shelley, you were pretty skeptical of this relationship that your sister was in from the beginning. For you, what were the red flags?
Yes. Thank you also, Christine, for having us. The red flags started when he wouldn't FaceTime with her or me. I had asked just to kind of break the ice. I mean, she was nervous about seeing each other face to face. I understand that this is a new and exciting relationship. But he would, every time we tried to schedule something or I tried to suggest a FaceTime, he would back out. So right there, that was a big red flag. The other one was that he he introduced the idea of them calling each other king and queen. So Linda always referenced him as the king and she was the queen. And I thought, okay, if he is a scammer and if he's stringing along 4 or 5 other women to not get their names all confused when he's talking to them, maybe that's why he uses this king and queen. And the other thing was he often told her, look, he'll come out and visit us. He was going to come to our family reunion that we were planning. But every time a trip had been semi-planned, he would cancel or back out. Just all the classic occurrences that show that he's most likely a scammer.
Well, I'm sorry this happened to you, Linda. When we come back from these commercial messages, let's talk more about how you uncovered that this was a scam.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're talking about scams and frauds and talking to some victims of a catfish scam. Now, Linda, after you and this man, this fraudster, got back into your relationship after you ended things, how long was it after that he started asking for money? And why did you decide to give it to him?
Well, it was pretty shortly after we reconnected, because this is a real red flag that I'd like everyone to be aware of. When your person that you're involved with suddenly has to go out of the country and travel for business reasons or for whatever reason, they go far away too. It's usually, the Far East, East Asia. In my case, he was going to Cuba because he was fixing up his villa that he owned so that he could turn around and rent it out because the country was opening up. And so this would be a good revenue stream for our future. Because of the emotional, it was almost an addiction. The emotional addiction that I felt, this elation and happiness and hope for the future after 26 years of a tough marriage and then a divorce and everything, I didn't want that feeling to stop. The other thing is they're really, really good at being able to understand there's a team behind these guys. It's not just an individual person thinking, oh, I'm going to do this today. There's a team of professionals or highly intelligent that know exactly how to manipulate, and for him what to say to me, to manipulate me based on all of the information that I had given him. And also, I'd like to just put this out as another warning. Keep your profile information very limited. I put too much information in my profile. Professional woman, in my own home, 2 adult children, divorced after a long-term marriage. It was like, oh my God, she's the perfect victim. And I didn't know. I learned all this as I went along.
So how much money did you end up giving him, and over what sort of time period?
Well, I ended up giving him all in total between cash and sending iPhones and iPads, $150,000, of which I'll never see again. And it's not something that, is just an easy deficit for me. And it happened over a period of basically August through January. It was just the beginning of January when, I finally was saved by my sister and the squad, as she'll talk about.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Now, Shelley, you hired a private investigator because you were so concerned. What was it that resulted in you finally being able to say, we know for sure this is a scam?
Well, I didn't know much about these scams. I didn't know anything about dating online. So yes, I needed professional help. I was doing a lot of Google searches, but not really understanding what we could be involved in. So I hired 2 private investigators. They did do a lot of research, unfortunately, on the wrong men, because her guy, as we are now guessing, was in Nigeria the whole time. So then I formed the squad, which was a group of Linda's very dear friends and her adult daughter. And together we hacked into her email. We secretly recorded conversations with her. And 2 of us even went to the FBI at one point. So we went all out. In fact, my job suffered. In fact, I left that job after this. It was so traumatic and I wanted to put it all down in writing. And we didn't know if she had given him money. That was the scary thing. And all of us would tell her intermittently, please do not send him money. You're not sending him money, are you? And she would lie to us and tell us, oh, no, I'm not sending any money. But we could tell because we love her so much. We know her so well. We could tell Linda was lying to us.
So why don't you just tell me what happened? You found out it was a scam. You confronted Linda with it. And then Linda, you decided finally to accept that this was a fraud, and what happened?
Yeah, it was my mother's husband, who I cherish dearly, and he's the most non-judgmental person I've ever met in my life. And it was him crying in front of me saying, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I wish I could take this all away. And that was it. And I immediately blocked him again. And I came out of the fugue state, if you want to call it that, or right then and there, I came out of the brainwashing that I really feel that I had been the victim of. And, I recovered. Luckily, I'm happy to report I recovered financially. I'm not broke. I mean, I'm always going to be $150,000 short. I know my money's gone forever. So that's why this book and my message and our message, my sister and I, is so important to get out there, because it doesn't just happen to middle-aged women like me, but it's across the spectrum. It's gender blind.
And I encourage everyone to pick up the book, Her King, the Con. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're talking about frauds and scams. We're joined now by a panel of financial and law enforcement experts, Elizabeth Nomofsky, Vice President of Marketing at Caldwell Securities, and John Meacher, a retired RCMP fraud team leader specializing in financial crimes. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Elizabeth, let's start with you. You've heard about the story of Linda. Catfish scams or romance scams are one of the scams out there, but what are some other common frauds people should be aware of?
So because we've all been self-isolating at home and social distancing, people are working from home, what do they want? A companion. So the puppy scam has been really, really big. The other one has been a rental scam where people, the housing prices are so high, people are looking for places to live in. And then obviously the SERB scam as well. What I want to do is have people pay attention to a few things. All of these scams are part of your emotions. They're emotions of the heart, right? Whether it's love, whether it's money, whether it's companionship. So always, stand back and think about things before you jump right in. I always say stop, pause, and think before you jump right in. And just like with Linda, where her scammer had changed or stolen somebody's identity, his photo, it's the same thing with a puppy. It's the same thing with a rental. It's always the same thing. One of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is scammers have been a little bit desperate throughout COVID. And what they've been doing is stealing corporate logos, stealing their address, and creating fraudulent sites. So everything, if you look at the logo, it's fine. The information is kind of fine. The address is there, but all the other information is wrong. What are the red flags? Paying to invest with your credit card. That's a no-no. One of the other flags is 2.5% to 15%, depending on how much you are investing, and that's daily. You're never going to get returns in an environment like this right now. So you really have to do your due diligence, and you have to stand back and pay attention before you jump in.
So just to talk about one of those scams, a puppy scam, the way it works is they send you a picture of a puppy and then you send a down payment and then they just disappear. Is that how it works?
Well, a lot of the puppy scams right now were because people wanted puppies because they were at home and they're working from home. But I mean, the supply is kind of dried up. So they start Googling and looking for other organizations, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere, and you see a picture of one, you send your money down, and then theoretically this dog is supposed to be sent to you or shipped to you for, wherever you live.
Okay. All right.
Always rescue a pet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so many animals that need homes, so that's great advice. Now, John, turning to you, what are some of the financial scams that you have seen with your work with the RCMP?
Okay. I was lucky enough to participate in many different investigations, both as an investigator, team leader, and an undercover operator. And basically, I dealt with counterfeit currency, market manipulation, money laundering, investment scams, both in person and online, white money, black money scams, romance scams, grandparent scams, lottery scams, inheritance scams, and of course the infamous CRA/immigration scam.
Well,
to name a
so
few.
that's a lot. So let's talk about those phone call scams for a minute. I think a lot of us know now how to identify them, but how many people are actually falling for those? The phone call CRA is coming to arrest you, send me your money.
Okay, well, you say most people recognize them. But unfortunately, the same people, which is Indian organized crime, basically created this scam or this version of the scam. So initially, it started off the IRS scam, then it became the CRA scam, and then in partnership with the CRA scam, it also became the immigration scam, the SIN scam, the bank inspector scam, and so on. So there's a whole suite of scams. And they're all mostly perpetrated by the phone. So over the last year, and this falls under a category of extortion scams. So over 2020, it came in fourth as far as the fourth most active scam.
Wow. So I for sure misspoke. Like I thought everyone knew this was a scam, but if it's, the fourth most common scam, apparently I'm wrong. Let's get back into this after these commercial messages.
Sure.
Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're talking about scams and frauds. So, John, for some people, once they realize they've fallen for a scam, it's too late. What should they do, though, when they realize they're in the middle of being defrauded?
Okay, so there's 3 or 4 key things. And the first thing is, if they've just lost money, they got to contact their financial institution or whatever financial entity help them get the money from them to the fraudster. And that could be prepaid cards, Western Union, MoneyGram, bank, whatever. So they got to contact them, have that transfer shut down if possible, but they have a very narrow window of opportunity. Next thing on the heels of that, contact their local police. Again, the quicker they contact the police, the greater chance, if the fraudster is local, that fraudster will be caught. Thirdly, it's very important that the same information is shared with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And we police encourage people to make a report to them as well. And fourthly, if the victim is emotionally, psychologically fragile, it's very important that they should maybe seek out the assistance of either a mental health professional, victim services at local police agency, talking to a close friend or trusted relative type thing. Because victims of fraud, unfortunately, in extreme cases, have either thought about, tried, or have killed themselves.
Wow. There's no shame in being a victim, and I encourage anyone who's been defrauded to follow John's advice. Seek out help where you can. Now, Liz, I want to turn to you. At Caldwell, you have been involved in an initiative to train people how to spot scams, teach people how to spot scams in, I think, 16 different languages. Can you tell me a bit about that initiative and why it's so important for it to be in so many different languages?
Actually, we put together a campaign called Just Hang Up, where we weren't training anybody. We're not professionals that way. But what we wanted to do was, because there are so many vulnerable seniors at home and so many immigrants who live in Canada that come from countries that have governments that will arrest them or governments that will do something bad to them, we wanted to have a message out there to let them know that, you know what, you can just hang up. CRA is never going to come and arrest you. RCMP or police officers are not coming. Your social insurance number does not expire. But we wanted to get the message out there, and our staff was so excited. Everybody that spoke a foreign language jumped in. So we have 16 different foreign languages, and they are on our website, caldwellsecurities.com. They are on our YouTube channel, caldwellsecurities.com YouTube. I encourage everyone, if there is a language that you speak, please share it with your community. This is very important. We want Canadians to feel safe, and we want people not to be afraid in their own home. And this is a very important message that I think everyone needs to share, because we need to feel comfortable and we shouldn't be afraid because our cell phone rings. And
Absolutely.
one other thing was, growing up, our parents always said to us, never talk to strangers. So, this is a perfect time to remember that right now. And if something doesn't feel right, fraudsters always tell you to keep it a secret. Do not keep it a secret. Share it with somebody. If something doesn't feel right within, if you're second guessing yourself, stop, pause, think, call somebody. The other thing, secondhand, a lot of people are selling things that they've got in their home. The secondhand economy is thriving. The police department actually has a place on their parking lot where you can exchange things freely and easily and safely. So once again, just hang up, caldwellsecurities.com. We're very excited about it.
Great advice, Liz. John, Liz, thank you both so much for joining today and giving your insight for our viewers.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We've heard today about the new and increasingly sophisticated ways that fraudsters and scammers are separating victims and their money, and about the financial and emotional damage that these scams can cause. We've also heard about how to spot scams and what to do if you believe you're being scammed. It can be challenging for victims to recover their money once they've been defrauded, but it's important not to be ashamed of being a victim. Go to the police, contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, and remember, there's no shame in what happened. The person who should be ashamed is the fraudster who takes advantage of people's good intentions. That's it for today's episode. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and remember, a freer Canada starts with you.